him buying ActiveRain?
Ben?
Yeah,
Um, I think at the time Ben wanted to create he believed that Inman was very like non-agent centric and it was like news for the real estate broker. And Ben wanted to create a platform that was like news for the agent.
got it.
Um,
Yeah.
by the way, totally like went a different direction. And I don't know, maybe in hindsight, if he had to do it again, he probably wouldn't do it. But there were some other things that came along in that acquisition that are parts of like the the Brivity platform today. Like there's this text application that was all kind of hooked up to the MLS, and so there's some pieces of the acquisition chase that like we use today. Whereas
That's
ActiveRain,
cool.
even though the community is still there, like it's very much in our world. No offense to anybody, I'm a Gen X, so I have inappropriate references. It's like a redheaded stepchild. So
I'm a Gen Xer. That's so funny and so true. So true. All right.
I'm
Let
sure
me,
I'm gonna offend somebody at some point today, so I'm sorry in
it's
Well,
all
advance.
I
good.
love
I
that
think
you
Chase
teed
and
it up.
I on the daily offend people, but I think they've gotten used to it. So they've gotten used to it. All right. Well, let's get going. Let me just get this going here. Bob, I want to introduce you, man. I'm fired up for this today, guys. Today, I'm bringing on someone I have respected for a really long time, Bob Stewart. He has been in the game for decades, and he hasn't just watched the industry change. He's actually helped shape it. So I don't know if people know this about you. This is something I learned that's new. Is you started one of the first online brokerages, and that was back before anybody even knew what that meant. You also co-found ActiveRain, which actively helped agents figure out how to use the internet to get business. And now you've partnered with Ben Kinney. You've helped scale Brivity, which is a really dynamic CRM, and Place, which is a platform for real estate teams. Kind of been in the middle of all of that and helped design and shape that. So, I mean, Bob, thanks for your time, man. We appreciate you jumping on, and I can't wait to dive into your knowledge and pour into the people listening.
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate you guys having me. It feels weird when you say a couple decades. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, here we are 20 some odd years later. And um, I mean, when I got started, like our group, we took one of the first feeds from the Northwest MLS, like in the early 2000s, and put listings on the internet. So yeah, we really have been kind of doing the online real estate thing for as long as it's been happening, at least up here in the Seattle, Washington area, which is where I live.
So you were syndicating listings before syndicating listings was a thing.
Yeah, so when the MLS first kind of opened up an IDX feed and the concept came about, it was like in 1999 in Washington. A couple of the big brokerages that had the finances to build a website and do all these things back then, like Windermere and John L. Scott, they were the first ones to get there and go online and say, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna put listings online. But all of the early people, really those two, put their listings behind like a wall. They said, hey, if you want to see the listings, you got to give us all your information. And we were young and dumb and we didn't know what we were doing, but we'd been building websites. One of us had in our parents' garage for a while. And we said, you know what? Like, as we read these rules, I think we can just put these listings on the internet. I don't think we got to make people register or give us their information or anything. And so we kind of took an opposite approach of everybody else. We just put the listings out there. And then we figured out
Onto a
ways
website?
onto
Onto
a
a,
website.
okay,
Yeah,
got
you
it.
got it, Brent. Where um, I'll use Windermere. Windermere said, "Hey, if you want to come to our website and look at the listings, you can, but you got to give us your name and your email and your phone number." And early on, it was like in your address and your kids' social security numbers, and like all this stuff, Chase. And we were like, "I think we can just put them on the internet. I think we can just show the listing and." And then when people show up and look at the listing, we can figure out how do we get their information. Maybe if they want to take a tour or they want to, get additional information, and later we would do things like, if they want to see we'd show them 3 photos. If they want to see the rest, they could register because there was nobody else showing them everything. So we had I mean, we had a full year almost where we had open field to try to figure out like how do we get people to register when everybody else was just making them register up front.
So you should change your bio to I was Zillow before Zillow. That's what I'm
I
hearing.
mean, in a lot of ways, like that's yeah, or Redfin, or like,
Yeah.
you know, they were smarter than us, and they had guys that went to, you know, had Harvard MBAs, Chase, so they were able to kind of
Yeah.
figure out the
And
long
they
game
went
a
and
lot
borrowed a ton
faster.
of money too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
we didn't.
yeah, yeah.
We were 23 years old. Like we didn't know how to find $1 million, let alone 100 million or whatever Zillow started with.
So how did that evolve into a brokerage and an ActiveRain?
Well, so in the very beginning, we just like we had a broker, and we had stuff on the internet, and man, within a month we had more leads than we knew what to do with.
Okay.
And so, and we had like a couple of us did mortgage, and we had this whole idea, you know, we're going to get these leads, we're going to be able to sell them the mortgage, and then we're going to get them a real estate agent. And what we quickly realized is real estate agents, they didn't know how to work these internet leads. They didn't know what they were. You know, they'd hear lead and they'd think, you know, oh, this person wants to go see houses. No, so really quickly we realized, okay, we got to build some kind of a software to like manage these leads. There's so many of them. And then we had to go out and try to find agents. So my job in the very beginning, Brent, became go find real estate agents here in Western Washington to work our leads. So I would go do these presentations at offices, and eventually we built a software and kind of a, you know, a stable of agents here in Western Washington that would work those leads. It went really well. It was like a referral model. You know, that was had its own little challenges. We had to hire one lady. Her entire job, Chase, was to chase people down who didn't pay their referrals, you know. And then from there we went into basically what we did is we said, okay, this works here. Where else in the United States can we do this? And the next place we went to was Maryland and Virginia, because the MLS at that point, MRIS, was very liberal with their IDX policies. So we went there, and then we did it in Southern California, we did it in Arizona, did it in San Diego, where we could just go into these MLSs, basically have a paper brokerage, like have a broker, you know, there on the ground, but then we could stand up an MLS feed. We were really good at search engine optimization by that point. You know, this is like 2005. When we started this, Google wasn't a thing, Brent.
Yeah.
Like the search engines used to be Ask Jeeves, AOL, and they were all powered by this thing called Overture, where you did like paid submissions into the search engines to get your stuff to rank. And then when Google came along, because we were already really good at the paid submission stuff, and there was a little bit of like what we would consider today SEO components in that, but I don't know, we were just able to go into a market, stand up a website, essentially dominate the search engines for a while in that given market, which allowed us to like stand up a, you know, referral network around that, and go out and just these teams would, or these brokerages, these agents, really it was a bunch of individual agents had a brokerage that had agreed to kind of bring their agents in and allow them to work these leads.
Yeah.
They would use our software.
So real quick, because here's what I'm hearing. So I mean, I think everybody listening is understanding you've got decades of validity of generating leads. You built a software to put these leads into. You figured out how
Which,
to build
funny
a
enough, was
brokerage
called
to,
ActiveRain, by the
yeah,
way. And then that became something totally different. But
yeah. So I think that where I want to take the conversation is right into your current expertise, which
okay.
is CRMs and lead conversion. Like, how do agents close more business? And how do they leverage a CRM to do it? Like whatever direction you want to take. I mean, I'm sure you have your typical talking points around it that you know help agents. But when you
Yeah,
hear close more business, what should an agent do or think? How should an agent think about it?
let me set it up for you. Like, here's why I feel qualified to speak on this. So in 2015, Ben Kinney acquires ActiveRain, which I was a co-founder of, and during that acquisition, he kind of reaches out to me and says, "Hey, if I buy this thing from Zillow, would you want to come work with me?" And I said, "Yeah, I would love to." And so I went to work with Ben in July of 2015, and quickly after that, he said, He brought me to his house, and Brent, have you ever seen Ben write on a whiteboard? Like anybody that's ever seen Ben Kinney has seen Ben write on a whiteboard, right? And so he brings me to his house. He's got this whiteboard at his house, and he flips it over. And on the back of this whiteboard was drawn out like what today is the Brivity platform. This was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. He flips it over and he's like, this is what we're going to build. And
Wow.
I'm like, all right. And, you know, a couple months later, we would buy Blue Roof, which became kind of the front end of the website. And about 9 months after he flipped that thing over, we had the Brivity platform to a place where, and because in the very beginning, Brivity was always the transaction management platform. That's what it was originally built for.
Okay.
But now we had websites on the front end. Leads came into Brivity. We had like a CRM in there. We could watch agents manage it. And so we had like the whole end to end.
Yep.
And, you know, at that time, I don't know, we had a couple hundred people probably using Brivity in the beginning. And real early, Ben sat us all down and he said, look, one of the major things that matters to me is that we figure out what does it take to get the business out of a CRM? Because we'd worked with Market Leader before. Like we'd seen inside of CRMs, we realized and we knew from our own businesses, most agents, most teams have, especially teams, right? And that's really what we were dealing with, Brent. Most teams have thousands of leads in their database. They don't have a leads problem ever. It's very rare that a team, somebody that's like, and Chase is shaking, somebody decided to go, you know what? Like I need more people to help me work this business. It's because you've got this database, this big database. So Ben's objective, and he set a group of like 5 of us out. He said, I want you guys to study and understand and become experts at like what levers does an agent or a team need to pull in that CRM or that database to get the business.
So did you find the secret?
Yeah, you guys, most people don't want to hear it. To be completely blunt, like I wish it was, you know, how many auto plans or how many drips I have set up, or but here the secret is, and it's not really a secret. Every single person on the call knows it, but it's also
real quick, Bob. I'm gonna say it's a secret because you have probably the most knowledge on the system and the behavior of agents, and you've studied thousands and thousands of agents and hundreds of teams and how they operate within a system. So, I mean, if you're going to say something that you think we already know, I think the fact that you know everything you know and you're about ready to say what you're going to say is going to pack a little bit
just for
different.
clarity, how many teams or users do you have at Brivity right now?
There's over 5,000 teams using Brivity. I really deeply, Chase, like every single month, I'm studying the data on our place partners. And so there's 480 place teams. And there's, you know, like it's like a 10x factor, it's probably 50,000 agents using these tools.
Wow.
In some capacity.
And how many leads inside of there? Like, I mean, I'm assuming over a million, like a lot, right?
No, over 50 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So here's the answer. You ready? Take your pencils out. But again, nobody's going to be blown away by this. Like if you are, somebody's lied to you for a really long time. The number one answer of how to get the business out of your CRM is to call it. Is to call the people in there. Which, by the way, bodes pretty well for us because it's like the very last thing that I think AI will take away from us is our voice, right? Like our literal voice that we use. So the number one answer is call it.
So and what does calling really mean, right? I think the root of a relationship is conversation.
Yeah.
You can't build a relationship via text and email. You can reinforce a relationship, but you can't build a relationship with it. Yeah. You have to talk to people.
You got to talk to people on the phone. No, you don't have to talk to them. You could talk to them in person and log it in your CRM, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And I think these are some of the things AI will help us with in the long term is, you know, I just talked to that person, I bumped into him, and I just go into my AI and say, hey, log the fact that I just talked to Sally. But talking to your database. In fact, at Place, we pay really close attention to what we call database turnover rate. And it's just a factor. And the reason why is, like, as we've studied it, when you drive your database turnover rate down, here's what database turnover rate says or means. Chase, if you have 5,000 contacts in your database and you called 500 this month, your database turnover rate is a 10. It's going to take you 10 months to call your 5,000 people, calling them an average of 500 a month. And as we've studied 5,000 teams,
For
essentially
clarity, are you talking like just attempts, or are you talking
just
actual
attempts, man. You don't have
okay.
to talk to them. You don't have to talk to them.
So if I keep that pace up, I'm going to talk to my whole database in 10 months.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to attempt.
I'm going to attempt a conversation with somebody in my database once every 10 months. By the way, that's not going to get the job done. Like the target, and really the target is 3. The target is once a quarter. That like quarterly, I can call into my database. By the way, if you call most people 4 times a year, you'll talk to them once.
Interesting.
Okay. If you call them now, you'll get credit for those other times. You guys know this. When they answer the phone, finally, Chase, they'll say things like, "Oh my God, I haven't been ghosting
I've been meaning
you.
to call you back." Yeah.
And so you get the credit for that effort, but practically, by the way, not every lead gets a call once a quarter. Some leads get 10 calls, and some leads you're like, I got a reminder to call that person in 6 months. But that's the answer, you guys.
Okay, so we got to call them. There's probably some nuance inside of that, right?
Sure. Yep.
So if I'm hearing I want to turn it over every 3 months, but I can only handle 500 calls a month, then what I'm also hearing is if I have 5,000 people in my database, I probably need to weed it down to 1,500.
Potentially, yeah. I need another person. I need an extra person on
make
the
more
team.
calls or call less people.
Yeah. Now there's also like some priority in who we should call, because not every lead in that database is an equivalent lead.
Yeah, so just some context on what we teach. We teach a prioritization system where someone goes into a VIP or a cap, and these people have we've asked permission to follow up. They've given permission for us to follow up. We said we're going to follow up as it pertains to real estate. Those and those are in a A, B, C kind of category.
Yep.
Because you're going to put way more time in the A's. Those people have sent you lots of business or done lots of business or whatever. But here's my question, and here's why I set it up that way, is there are just people that are a database entry. Should we consider them trash, or should we think through a strategy to get them to at least at a minimum raise their hand and see if they're a valid or qualified person that we should be talking to?
I think that the answer to this is the difference between am I looking to build a business, or am I trying to like find my next paycheck right now?
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, if I'm looking to build a business, there's no trash.
Okay.
Like I guess like my deadbeat cousin that's never had a job and is never going to buy a house. Like, okay, yeah. But like most people have, an aspiration to buy a house one day. Now, once they become a homeowner, then they only do it every 13 years. And so what normally happens is we're looking for that person who's like, they're going to be a deal today because I need a paycheck, Chase, right? But if I was building a business, I would talk to anybody. And then I just have to figure out, okay, the people that are closer to actually doing something, I should talk to them a little bit more frequently. And the people that just bought last year, well, they're probably not going to buy again on average for 12 more years. And so there's somebody that I put less effort into. But I think everybody gets some level of effort. It's just like, oh, that person that's 12 years out, they're going to get a lot more automation. And maybe they get a call every 6 months, Brent, because they might know somebody that's thinking about buying or selling, but I know they're not doing it.
How important is it, do you think, for agents to actually think about this? Like anybody listening to this right now, like I'm guessing a large portion of them, just based on the coaching conversations I have with people, they don't think through the system nearly enough, in my opinion. Like, how important is it for them to have a system or think through that big of a system, or is there an easier way to approach it where it's going to serve them and not be as heavy of a lift?
I don't know. Look, one of my colleagues, probably one of the favorite people I like to listen to, Brian Gubernick. I don't know if you guys know Brian Gubernick, but yeah. One of my favorite like talks he does is he talks about the difference between like a professional real estate agent and like an amateur real estate agent. And so like one of the things that he gives as a difference is like professionals know the scoreboard always. Professionals have goals. Like there's all these things that show you like, are you a professional real estate agent? Or do you dabble in this? And I think like Brent, I always ask teams or agents, I joke, I'm like, hey, do you guys have creditors that don't show up in months where you don't get a paycheck? And like, I've never heard somebody go, yeah, my cell phone company, they don't send me a bill whenever if I have a month where I whiff and I don't have any paychecks, like my cell phone company's like, it's cool. You can
In other words, you always have obligations and responsibilities.
Yeah. And like as a professional real estate agent, I need to have a consistent income, right? Like, and so if I want to have a consistent income, I have to be thinking about these things. I think, look, I don't have to know the formulas, and I don't have to necessarily figure out exactly what order to call them, because there's groups like yours, Brent, that helps me figure this out and says do it A, B, C, and you call your A's once a week, you call your B's once a month, and you call your C's once a quarter. Like, I don't know how you guys do it, but
sure.
So there's systems I can plug into. Like, I don't have to create this stuff from scratch. I think one of Ben Kinney's great superpowers is his unabashedly, he'll R&D anything, right? Like he just looks at who's done this well in the past, and then he takes that and he breaks it down and he improves it by 5 or 10% or whatever.
For anybody listening, what do you mean by R&D?
Rip off and duplicate.
Okay. So he's not reinventing the wheel, and if he's one of the best in the business, we should probably take a page out of his book.
Maybe. We have a thing at Brivity. It's called the day in the life of your Brivity database. It could be the day in the life of it could be the day in the life of your follow-up database. It's just a concept. It basically takes the thing we know we need to do. We need to call them, and it lays it out in your CRM so that it's like, as you start your day, you're calling the people most likely to want to do business with you. Somebody you called hot, maybe somebody that showed up on your website and requested a showing, or somebody that was, on your website looking at the same property chase 3 times. Like, these are people that we know if we put effort into those, make phone calls to them, we're more likely to go set an appointment. But so the methodologies, I think, live out there. But it is important to know. Like, I've run into people that, they have a goal, they want to do 40 transactions this year, but they don't have enough leads, like even in their database, right? So you have to understand this if you're playing professionally. Or here's another thing. Or I think you need if you're already getting out of real estate what you want, like, high five, keep doing what you've been doing. Chase, like if I did 15 deals last year and my goal this year is 16 or 17 or 18, just keep doing what you did last year. You're probably going to get there. But Brent, if I did 10 last year and I want to do 20 this year, I probably have to do something different. I probably have to plug into a system. I got to look and find somebody that did 20 and go copy what they're doing.
Yeah, I would say the only pushback I'd give you there is the guy that did 15 and wants to do 16 the next year. There's market cycles, right? There's shifts in the market. Don't you think, I mean, I'm assuming your answer is yes. Don't you think having a systematized approach to how you communicate with people protects you from that?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Like, I know, yes. And so the image that I'm conjuring up in my head today is our sales funnel inside of Brivity. And this sales funnel concept, I mean, we R&D'd it from shout out to, Spring Benson. What's her husband's name? They have a really awesome company that does all the analytics stuff. Yeah. Anyway, they have a great sales funnel, and we had a lot of our customers that used to use theirs, and they're like, we like that sales funnel. The sales funnel, like, this is another, I'm a professional. Like, I show up each day. I know my numbers, right? Like, I know in 2025 across all of place, it took us 33 contacts to set one buyer or seller appointment. And then you can go down the line. Well, okay, we set the appointment. What percentage of those people showed up and we actually had the appointment with? Okay, we had those appointments. What percentage of them did we get signed to a buyer agency agreement or a a listing agreement. Okay, of those people we got signed, what percentage went pended? Of the pendings we had, what percentage closed? That's your sales funnel. It starts, by the way, on the front end with just calling them. So I call them, a certain percentage I contact to appointment, all the way down. So to your point of like, well, the market changed. Like I can watch and see where is it getting easier. Like in December of 2025, it was taking us about 35 contacts to set an appointment. When we came into January, it dipped all the way down to 27. Like it got way easier in January to go set an appointment. But when I know that stuff, Chase, and I know like, oh, the market's getting harder, it's getting easier, especially when it's getting harder. I know I got to like lean into that. Okay, it's taking me more effort to get to that appointment and ultimately to get to that closing.
I think that's an important point that a lot of us miss is, when you know your numbers. So, a system helps you know that. A CRM like Brivity would definitely help you know that. But when you know your numbers, when something's off, you're one of the first to know. Meaning when the market changes, you're one of the first to know that there's a shift in the market and you adjust accordingly. Like, hey, it's taking me 45 people to talk to before I set an appointment. That's a shift in the market. That's not your skill set getting, degrading. There's a shift in the market. Less people are saying yes.
Yep.
Hey, Bob, let me ask you a question. We got 5 minutes left here. If we were thinking of just average realtor out there, someone listening to this or watching this, 6 months from now, what's the most common mistake you see being made, or like a slight tweak that, if people implemented it, they'd see more business?
You want to hear something silly? So we study all this data, Chase. The number 2 answer of how you go get the business, so calling it, like we got to call our database. The number 2 answer, as we've studied like everything in here, was what percentage of your Mets. So like in our world in Brivity, that's if they're a hot watch nurture or a past client, we kind of bulk that up as our Mets. What percentage of your Mets have an intentional next step in their database? A task. Now, to me, this is crazy because when I got into real estate, you guys, the big sexy CRM was Top Producer. Like in 2001, Top Producer was the sexy. And one of the reasons why agents loved it is because I could go in there and I could set a follow-up for my lead. I used to have a Rolodex, I guess. I don't know what they did before I got in real estate. I have a Rolodex, Chase, and I'd call somebody and then I'd put them in the back of the Rolodex. And when they got to the front again, I'd call them again. But Top Producer said, no. When you talk to somebody, just set a reminder. And then you'll log into your CRM in a month and that reminder will pop up and people were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. 20 years later, we don't use that function. It was like one of the first software functions we had in real estate was just set a reminder. So you guys want a small tweak in your database. The next time you're talking to somebody, when you get off the phone with them, just log in there like the next time you want to talk to them. Most people don't do this. And so what happens is you go months and months and months without talking to somebody. Like I always ask our teams at Place, like when I see a nurture lead, right? In our world, a nurture lead is somebody we think is 3 to 12 months out. They're not doing it right now, but they're probably a part of my business plan this year. Our data says the best follow-up cadence for them is once a month. So we want to hit that person a minimum of once a month, right? But I always ask, like our Place agents, I say, hey, here's Mary Smith in your database. She's a nurture with no reminder. When does Mary think you're going to follow up with her? And the answer I always get is deer in the headlights, right? Like, oh, well, Mary has no idea when I'm going to follow up with her because I don't even know when I'm going to follow up with Mary. So like, if you guys want a simple hack, try just reminding yourself when the next time you want to follow up with that person is. But here's the hard part, Chase, and this is why most agents don't do it. Because in 30 days from now, that thing's going to come due. And if I'm not in my database that day, then, and I'm not in it for a week after that, then I'm going to show up one day and I'm going to have 78 overdue tasks. And then I'm going to go, oh, I'll get to those later. And then I'm not going to show up. And, and all of us, probably everybody on here has been in a position, we call it task bankruptcy. You're like, I got 500 overdue tasks. I'm never going to get to them all.
Delete them
Let's
all.
just delete them all
Yeah.
and start over.
I
But
like that.
that is
I'd like
actually
to
a really
file
simple thing to
bankruptcy
do.
on my database.
I want to say it. I want to say it a different way, Bob, because we both agree with you in this capacity. What Bob is saying is when you talk to someone on the phone, you should always, especially if they're a viable, if they're just a relationship, like you can handle that with filters. But if they're and you should set filters, I think, to have a stop loss. But when you're talking to someone, you leave the conversation with an appointment. Always. Meaning you either set the appointment to meet with them or you set the appointment to follow up with them. Like, hey, when I'm going to follow up with you on this day and this time. And you're leaving the conversation, setting an appointment. And that's a great, I agree, Bob, that's probably a number 2 indicator as to what a professional agent does is they don't leave a phone call without setting an appointment.
There's something else I think I want to point out, and it's going to go all the way back 25 minutes ago. Bob said when we started, Google wasn't around. He mentioned a few search engines. Mine was Dogpile. I don't know if you remember that one. That was the one I used. But you said you had to pay for like inquiries, which is crazy to think about today. Now they were literally inventing the internet, and what's being invented right now, Bob?
AI.
AI. Yeah, and it's happening right in front of our face, and everything we think it's going to be, like it's almost inevitable. It's going to be nothing like what we think it's going to be. Just like Zillow wasn't a thing, you kind of started the first, one of the first Zillows. Obviously, you didn't do Zillow, dang it. But yeah, but like, what's the next Zillow, right, from AI? And I'm not necessarily saying we should all be chasing that unicorn, but I think just be prepared for a lot of change and don't get too sucked into it, right? Do the things that Bob's saying, relationship. The conversation is the relationship. That's all that matters until we, have a definitive solution inside of this AI world. You don't need to be paying for courses from some Instagram person who, sold 2 houses last year without, ever talking to someone. Like that's not a winning solution.
The win today for you guys is go connect with more people that need help buying, selling, investing in real estate. And, your CRM has them in there. Most of you guys don't need more leads. You just got to pick the phone up and get belly to belly with the people that you already have, connected with at some point previously.
Great message.
Awesome. Well, we are 2 minutes over. Your guys' time is important to us, so we're going to let you go. We'll see you tomorrow. Bob, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. Definitely appreciate it, man. It was very valuable.
Hey, sorry, you guys. I know you wanted some answer to be not work, but the answer is work. So get back to it. Chase, Brent, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks a lot, Bob.